Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
In a galaxy where stars twinkled like shards of ice against a deep velvet sky, the planet of Zyra hummed with an undercurrent of tension. Humans, having once tread the cosmos with innocence, now found themselves amidst the ruins of ancient alien civilizations. The alien inhabitants, cast as both allies and adversaries, were remnants of a time when worlds flourished in harmony. But now, a fragile peace hung by a thread, constantly threatened by the ambitions of a ruthless warlord known only as Draxos. Anthony, a rugged human in his late 20s with piercing blue eyes and a heart full of rebellion, stood at the edge of a bustling market. The vibrant colors of Zyra's alien flora and fauna whispered seductively to him, but he was too burdened by the weight of recent memories to be swayed. He had lost friends to Draxos' cruelty, individuals who had dared to speak out against the injustices of their world. But today would mark a turning point, a reckoning that began with a haunting sight. As he maneuvered through the crowd, the sounds of laughter were abruptly pierced by a scream. Instinctively, his heart raced. Anthony turned to see a group of Draxos' soldiers forcing their way through the market, dragging a figure, an alien girl, with flowing azure hair and eyes that shimmered with desperation. She was Olivia, the last of her kind, renowned among her people for her courage and defiance. Without thinking, Anthony's feet propelled him forward. A compulsion he could not comprehend urged him to act. "Let her go!" he shouted, a mix of fury and fear igniting within him. The soldiers paused, laughter dancing on their lips as they brandished their weapons, amused by the single human who dared to challenge them. Yet Anthony stood tall, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Get out of the way, human," one soldier sneered, gripping Olivia tightly, her breath hitching as she met Anthony's gaze, an unspoken plea layered with a spark of hope. In that fleeting moment, everything shifted. Anthony saw the flicker of determination in her eyes, a mirror reflecting his own desire for justice. A commotion broke out as Anthony lunged toward the soldiers. He fought fiercely, adrenaline blurring his sense of pain as the world around him became a cacophony of chaos. But despite his best efforts, the odds were stacked against him. The soldiers easily overpowered him, leaving him bruised on the ground. As Olivia was dragged away, her voice echoed back to him, "Avenge me, and I'll be your toy forever." The weight of her words settled heavily over Anthony, igniting a fire in his heart that he could not ignore. He lay there amidst the clamor, the vibrant market fading into the background as a single thought crystallized in his mind. He would not let her down. With renewed determination, Anthony stumbled to his feet, wiping the blood from his face. Vengeance was no longer a choice, it was a promise. He would find Olivia, rescue her, and make Draxos pay for his cruelty. The fate of not just Olivia, but their worlds, rested on his shoulders, and he would not falter. As Anthony stumbled through the remnants of the market, determination surged within him. Each step away from the chaos felt like a step closer to fulfilling a promise he barely understood. The connection he had felt with Olivia was more profound than he could have anticipated. Memories of his past flooded his mind, propelling him forward, memories that had shaped him into the man he was today. Anthony's background, raised in the slums of Earth, Anthony had learned early on the harsh realities of life. His father, a soldier who fought in the interstellar conflicts, had instilled in him a fierce sense of justice and an understanding of sacrifice. But that noble ideal had been shattered when his father returned home, haunted by the ghosts of war. Anthony's once innocent world warped into a realm of betrayal as friends turned against each other, and the drive for vengeance became a common thread among his peers. As he joined the resistance against Draxos' tyranny, Anthony matured into a fierce warrior, fueled by heartbreak and loss. Each skirmish against the warlord's forces left him more determined but deeply scarred. He had lost many to the war, friends whose faces lingered in his mind like unhealed wounds. Yet, none affected him as deeply as Olivia's plight. It was as if she embodied every injustice he had fought against, her beautiful blue hair a stark contrast to the nightly darkness of his memories. Olivia's background, meanwhile, Olivia was no ordinary alien girl. As one of the last of her kind, Her lineage carried the weight of an ancient culture deeply intertwined with the fabric of the universe. Known for her intelligence and tenacity, she had always been a beacon of hope for her people. But her world had crumbled when Draxos' forces swept through her home, leaving destruction in their wake. She had witnessed the brutal slaughter of her family and friends, each life lost etched into her soul. Despite her fragile appearance, Olivia held a strength that came from her heritage. Orphaned and on the run, she had learned to navigate the darkness with agility and wits. The thought of destruction had become an echo in her heart, merging with her dreams of freedom. But as she lay captive, uncertainty gnawed at her spirit. She yearned for someone to believe in her, someone like Anthony. The tense moments they had shared in the marketplace now replayed in her mind. She had caught a glimpse of something in Anthony's eyes that reflected her own daring dreams. It ignited a fire within her, burning through the fear that threatened to suffocate her. The notion that someone would risk their life for her stirred a longing for connection, the promise of partnership against overwhelming odds. With both of their fates intertwined, Anthony and Olivia became restless spirits bound by a singular purpose, a need not just for revenge, but for redemption. Each movement within the shadows echoed the silent vows they had made to themselves, to find each other, to stand stronger against the darkness, and to reclaim their worlds from the grasp of a tyrant. The sun dipped below the horizon of Zyra, casting an eerie glow across the landscape. As darkness settled in, Anthony made his way to a dimly lit hideout where a group of resistance fighters had gathered. Their secretive meetings had become a source of hope amidst the despair. Anthony was determined to rally them for an operation to rescue Olivia. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation. The makeshift table was littered with maps of Draxos' stronghold, blueprints borrowed from Whispers, and those brave enough to scout the enemy territory. Flickering holographic projections illuminated the faces of his comrades. Jax, a grizzled ex-soldier with sharp eyes, Mira, a cunning tech specialist with a knack for hacking, and Danny, a fierce alien warrior who had lost family to Draxos' cruelty. "Listen up," Anthony called, drawing their attention. "We have to move quickly. Draxos has taken Olivia, and time is against us. We're going in tonight." Jax crossed his arms, skepticism etched onto his face. "You think we can take on an entire fortress? Draxos won't just let us stroll in there." Myra's brow furrowed as she scanned the blueprints. "There are blind spots in the security system. If we time it right, we might be able to slip in unnoticed. But we need a distraction to draw the guards away." Danny leaned forward, determination sparking in her green eyes. "I'll create a diversion. With my combat skills, I can handle any soldiers on patrol. You just focus on getting Olivia out." The plan began to take shape as Anthony coordinated their efforts. Each member of the group contributed their unique abilities. They pored over every detail, mapping out escape routes and gathering equipment. The bond among them tightened, forged from a shared purpose and the promise of vengeance. As the night advanced, Anthony felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He didn't just fight for Olivia. He fought for all those who had suffered under Draxos' reign. The memory of Olivia's pleading eyes spurred him forward, reminding him that this wasn't merely a mission. It was a battle for the hearts and souls of oppressed beings. With their plan solidified, the team set out into the frigid night. The pale moons above illuminated their path as they approached the heavily guarded fortress. Nestled against stark cliffs, Draxos' lair loomed like a dark beast, fortified with high walls and watchtowers. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their silhouettes casting long shadows across the ground. "I'll cover you," Danny whispered, her fists clenched. "You get to Olivia. I'll hold them off for as long as I can." "Stay safe," Anthony urged, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He knew the risks were high, but he had to trust in the strength of their resolve. As they crept closer, Mira activated a series of small drones that buzzed quietly above them, relaying images from inside the fortress. The views displayed soldiers stationed at key points, along with Olivia's location locked away in a dimly lit cell. It was time. "On my mark," Anthony whispered, heart racing. The world seemed to narrow, focused only on the promise of freedom and the instinctual need to protect Olivia. "Now," he commanded, and Danny sprang into action, charging toward the guards with a fierce shout, a sound that echoed through the night and drew their attention. While Danny engaged the guards, Anthony and the others moved stealthily toward the fortress entrance. They slipped through a narrow opening, making their way down dark, dank corridors. The air buzzed with tension, a palpable energy that ignited Anthony's adrenaline. As they neared the cell, he could almost feel Olivia's presence, her strength resonating through the cold, metal walls. They reached the door leading to her cell. Anthony took a deep breath, steeling himself. With a swift kick, he broke the lock and flung the door open. The sight before him stole his breath. Olivia was huddled in the corner, her azure hair tangled but her spirit unbroken. She looked up, eyes wide with a mix of shock and joy. "Anthony!" she gasped, disbelief mingling with hope. "You came for me." "Always," he replied, rushing to her side. He quickly assessed her. Though she bore the marks of captivity, her fire had not dimmed. "We need to get you out of here." With his hands trembling, Anthony freed Olivia from her restraints, relief flooding through him as she stood upright, her strength re-emerging. The moment felt electric, a connection deeper than mere gratitude. "Let's go," Mira urged, urgency pressing against them. But before they could step out, alarms blared throughout the fortress, piercing through the tension like a knife. "It's a trap," Anthony shouted as chaos erupted around them. Danny's furious shouts reverberated in the distance, but they couldn't linger. They needed to escape. "Follow me," Anthony yelled, leading the group back through the winding corridors. His heart thundered as they raced against time, desperation fueling their steps. As they turned a corner, a squad of soldiers blocked their path, weapons raised. This was it. The moment he had prepared for had finally arrived, and the stakes couldn't be higher. With Olivia by his side and the echoes of their shared dreams drowning out the fear, he charged forward to confront his fate. Chaos erupted within the fortress as alarms blared, reverberating through the cold, sterile corridors. Anthony felt a surge of adrenaline. Every muscle in his body screamed for action. The path ahead was now a battleground, and the stakes had never been higher. "Stay close," he yelled to Olivia, who matched his determination with a fierce light in her eyes. Together, they barreled toward the exit, dodging soldiers who rushed to intercept them. Jax and Mira fought alongside them, their skills harmonizing as they unleashed a flurry of chaos against the approaching guards. Mira expertly hacked into the security systems as they ran, closing off certain pathways to slow down the enemy. "I've sealed off the north exit," she shouted as she turned a corner and aimed her weapon at a group of oncoming foes, taking two down with precise shots. "Good work," Anthony responded, heart racing as he fired back, pushing them closer to liberty. But with each passing moment, he felt the weight of Draxos' looming threat growing heavier. As they reached the courtyard, Danny emerged from the shadows, her glowing green eyes fierce and unwavering. She had held her ground against multiple guards, and even in the midst of the fray, there was a moment of triumph as she caught sight of them. "You found her," she exclaimed, and for a heartbeat, it felt like victory was within reach. But just then, Draxos appeared, towering and imposing, flanked by his elite soldiers. The warlord's menacing smirk sent shivers down Anthony's spine, his heart thudding painfully in his chest. "You think you can escape with her?" Draxos bellowed, his voice echoing through the night, filled with contempt and malice. "You'll pay for this insolence." Before Anthony could react, Draxos raised his hand, signaling his soldiers to surround them with weapons drawn. The air crackled with tension, their backs against the cold stone wall of the courtyard. Retreating felt impossible. "Stand your ground," Anthony shouted, adrenaline coursing through him as he stepped forward, facing Draxos. "You won't take her from me." Draxos chuckled darkly, a sound that sent revulsion coursing through Anthony's veins. "Foolish human, you think you can challenge me? I've destroyed entire civilizations. What hope do you have? She's not a tool for your conquest." Anthony shouted, fury igniting within him as he drew closer, fear dissipating. "She's a person, one you'll never control again." As Anthony's words hung in the air, Olivia stepped forward, her presence radiating strength. "You've tortured me long enough, Draxos. I will not become your pawn." Bold words from a captive. Draxo sneered, narrowing his eyes. He gestured, and his soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons, ready to strike. In that instant, Anthony felt a surge of fury and helplessness boiling over, the memories of all he had lost merging with the hope Olivia represented. "This ends now," he roared, and with a sudden burst of adrenaline, he charged toward Draxos. The fight erupted into chaos. Anthony felt the rush of battle, combat instincts kicking in as he engaged the nearest soldier, sidestepping a strike and countering with precision. The clang of weapons echoed as Jax, Mira, and Danny joined the fray, battling fiercely against Draxos' forces. Each strike felt empowered by their shared goal, every effort grounded in the resilience born from their struggles. But Draxos was a formidable opponent. He moved with a brutal grace, parrying Anthony's attacks with ease. "You're just a mere human attempting to play a god's game," he taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. "Just a human." Anthony growled, fury fueling his movements. "I will prove you wrong." Summoning every ounce of strength, he unleashed a powerful blow that connected with Draxos' side, forcing the warlord to stumble back, albeit briefly. In this pivotal moment, Olivia's voice cut through the noise, resolute. "Anthony, you can do it. Believe in yourself." It was a reminder of their bond, their shared purpose igniting a fire deep within him. As Draxos regained his footing, anger flashing in his eyes, he charged back at Anthony with ferocity. But Anthony was no longer the desperate human who had stumbled into the marketplace weeks ago. He was driven, fortified by the promise of freedom and a love that now glimmered in the shadows. As the two clashed, Anthony struck with renewed precision. He had fed off the collective strength of his friends, channeling it into each blow. Draxos was strong, but the underestimation of Anthony's resolve had left him vulnerable. With a final surge of energy, fueled by the memory of those who had suffered in silence and Olivia's belief in him, Anthony seized the moment. He maneuvered around Draxos, delivering a swift, decisive blow that sent the warlord to his knees. The battle abruptly halted as silence fell across the courtyard. Draxos' henchman, momentarily stunned by the unexpected turn of events. "Enough!" Draxos roared, his voice a mixture of rage and disbelief. But in that quiet moment, it was clear to everyone that the tide had turned. With Draxos incapacitated, Anthony rallied his friends. "We can't let this be for nothing. We have to finish this." Mira quickly activated the fortress's alarm system against Draxos, triggering the lights to flash red in an all-out alert. Panic erupted among the remaining soldiers, inhibiting their response. "Come on," Danny shouted. "We need to get out of here before reinforcements arrive." Gathering their strength, Anthony and his group retreated toward their escape route. But just as they were about to make it through the exit, a figure emerged from the shadows. One last soldier, a fierce expression carved on his face, weapon raised against them. "Get down," Anthony shouted, instinctively pushing Olivia aside, but not fast enough. The shot rang out. As the shot rang out, time seemed to freeze for Anthony. Everything narrowed into the agonizing moment where he watched, horror-stricken, as the bullet struck its mark. Olivia gasped, her body jerking as she crumpled to the ground. The world around Anthony faded, consumed by panic and despair. "No!" he shouted, rushing to her side as chaos enveloped them. The distant sound of clashing weapons and the echo of alarms faded into a haunting backdrop, replaced by the escalating beat of his heart. Kneeling next to her, he pressed his hands against the wound, blood seeping through his fingers. "Olivia, stay with me." His voice shook as he fought the rising tide of fear. She lay there, her breathing shallow and rapid, something akin to determination flickering in her eyes. I'm okay," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, but Anthony felt the weight of uncertainty in her words. "You have to go. They'll come for you." "I'm not leaving you." He refused to yield to panic, gripping her hand tightly. "We're getting out of here together." Jax and Danny fought valiantly against the last of Draxos' soldiers, holding the line, but Anthony knew they couldn't hold forever. Mira, in the midst of the chaos, brought up an emergency transport signal, her fingers flying across her communicator. "Help is on the way. We just need to buy time." With newfound resolve, Anthony lifted Olivia and cradled her against him. The weight of her body felt impossibly heavy, but he pressed forward, heart pounding as he maneuvered through the throng of fighting. "Keep moving," Jax barked, catching sight of their struggle amidst the clash of battle. He provided cover fire, his shots ringing true as they sealed their path towards the outer wall. "Over here," Mira shouted. They reached a nearby vent that curled upwards, a potential escape route. With Danny's help, they pried it open, only to be met with resistance from Olivia's pain. "Can you fit?" Anthony asked, glancing back anxiously as he set her gently down. The urgency in the air was palpable. Soldiers still rallied beyond them. I can try," she breathed, her face pale. Anthony hated to put her through this, but there was no choice. With an immense effort, Olivia gritted her teeth and managed, albeit slowly, to pull herself into the vent. Anthony helped hoist her, his heart aching with every delayed moment. He squeezed her hand as she climbed, knowing he needed to get her to safety. "Go," she gasped fiercely. "I'll follow." With one last look back, Anthony made the split-second decision to trust in her strength. He followed suit, abandoning doubt as he pulled himself into the cramped space. The tunnel was suffocating, a metallic womb echoing with their breaths. Together, they crawled through the darkness, Anthony ensuring Olivia stayed close. Panic coursed through him, each step amplified with dread until they reached a junction, the vent opening out into a narrow passageway. "Almost there," Anthony said, encouraging Olivia as they emerged one by one into the cool night air, the sky now speckled with the first glimmers of dawn. Yet, the sounds of battle still echoed behind them. In the distance, lights approached, rescue ships from the Resistance. Anthony's heart soared. The cavalry had arrived just in time. "We have to reach the landing zone," he urged, hope igniting within him. But as they sprinted toward the light, a looming figure appeared at the edge of the passage, Draxos, somehow still standing, rage vibrating off him like electricity. His uniform was torn, bloodied yet resolute. The warlord's eyes burned with fury. "You'll pay for this, Anthony," Draxos shouted, advancing toward them with menace, intent on reclaiming his captive and crushing Anthony's spirit. "Get Olivia to safety," Anthony shouted to Jax and Danny, who hesitated only for a moment before sprinting toward the ships. They were outnumbered, but he wouldn't allow Draxos to take Olivia again. "You think you can defeat me?" Draxos laughed twistedly, drawing a blade that glinted under the dim light. "You're just a boy playing with fire." With a fierce roar, Anthony confronted Draxos, their weapons crashing together as the two became locked in a fierce struggle, a dance of desperation against overwhelming odds. Anthony's thoughts were tethered to Olivia, her dreams, her spirit, the promise they had made to one another. "If you want her," Anthony growled, "you'll have to kill me first." The very essence of his resolve crashed against Draxos' insatiable rage. They clashed repeatedly, each swing another reminder of what was at stake. But Draxos was relentless. With each parry, Anthony felt energy waning, the sensation of fatigue gnawing at his bones. Draxos smirked, sensing victory. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, there was a flash of movement at his side. Danny, ace warrior that she was, struck at Draxos from the side, forcing the warlord off balance. "Now, Anthony," she shouted, giving him the opening he desperately needed. Channeling every ounce of fury and hope, he struck with all his strength. The blade found its mark, a swift and decisive blow to Draxos' side. The warlord staggered, shock washing over him before collapsing to his knees, defeated. "Victory belongs to those who dare." Anthony breathed heavily as he faced the dying warlord. "You've lost." With Draxos defeated, Anthony turned to see the rescue ships hovering nearby, lights illuminating the dark. Jax and Mira helped Olivia, now regaining her strength, albeit weakened but determined. "Go. We need to leave before more soldiers arrive," Jax urged, assisting Olivia into the waiting ship. The moment they boarded felt like an awakening, a rebirth from the ashes of despair. As they lifted off from Zyra, Anthony sat beside Olivia, his hand holding hers tightly. The pain of injury lingered, but with it came the taste of victory. Together, they had defied insurmountable odds. Olivia's eyes shone with gratitude and warmth. "You saved me, Anthony. You did this." "We saved each other," he replied softly, the depth of their bond deeper than all battles fought. The stars twinkled impossibly bright in the vast cosmos ahead, a promise of new worlds to explore and the warmth of unbroken free will. Together, they had forged a path through darkness, a renewed hope shining brightly against the pain of the past. The journey ahead was unwritten, but one thing was certain: their fight was just beginning.